Listen to me. I need you to hear this with your heart. Is there any perfect moment? No, there's no perfect moment. The perfect moment is a lie, a distraction, a trap to keep you waiting, wishing, and watching instead of doing. You're out here hoping the stars align. But let me tell you something. The stars will never align if you don't get up and move. You're waiting for the right time. The right time is now. The only thing perfect about this moment is that it's here and it's yours. You don't need more time. You need more courage. You don't need a sign. You are the sign. You're the proof that greatness is possible. While you're waiting, someone else is grinding. While you're second guessing, someone else is executing. It ain't about the conditions being perfect. It's about your commitment being unshakable. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when it's not ideal. So stop waiting for a perfect. Start becoming persistent. Stop chasing comfort. Start chasing purpose. Start chasing purpose. The real question isn't, is it the right time? The real question is, how bad do you want it? Because if you want it like you want to breathe, then guess what? This is a perfect moment. The perfect moment doesn't exist. Action creates momentum. That statement right there is the reality check a lot of people need. Too many of us are out here sitting on dreams, sitting on vision, sitting on purpose, because we're waiting for this magical moment when everything lines up just right. When we have the money, when we have the support, when the weather's good, when the stars align, when we feel ready. But let me tell you something real. You're never going to feel fully ready. That's not how life works. There's always going to be something that feels off, something that's not quite in place. If you're waiting for perfection, you're waiting forever. See, the people who win in life, the people who actually make progress, they're not the ones who had it all figured out from the jump. They're the ones who move forward, even when it was messy, even when it was uncertain, even when the timing wasn't ideal. They understood that action is the antidote to fear, and movement is the key to momentum. Once you start moving, the path starts revealing itself. Once you step into the arena, the opportunities start coming. Not before. You're not going to get momentum by thinking about it. You don't create change by planning alone. You gotta act. The truth is, when you act, even if it's imperfect action, you build confidence. Every step you take tells your mind, I'm serious about this. I'm not just talking, I'm walking. And that energy is contagious. It starts attracting people, resources, and situations that match your new level of commitment. But if you sit there and do nothing, waiting for a green light that will never come, you stay stuck. You stay average. You stay frustrated. So many people believe that clarity comes first, but that's backward. Clarity comes from action. It comes from getting in the game, taking a few hits, learning what works, adjusting, and pressing forward. Some of y'all are trying to plan the entire journey before you take the first step. That's like trying to solve a puzzle without even opening the box. You're never going to know every piece until you start. That's why momentum matters. Once you're in motion, you're learning, growing, adapting, and that motion gives birth to more motion. Think about a train sitting on the tracks. That thing weighs tons, but when it's stationary, even a tiny block in front of the wheels can keep it from moving. But once that train gains momentum, once it's rolling, it can blast through a brick wall. That's your life. That's your goals. When you're standing still, every little obstacle looks like a mountain. But when you get moving, you develop force, you develop power. The obstacles don't disappear, but your ability to break through them increases. Not because they got smaller, but because you got stronger. We've been tricked into thinking we need all the answers before we begin. That's a lie. The only thing you need is a made-up mind and a willingness to act. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't have to have all the resources. You just have to use what you got. Because the truth is, most of what you're missing will show up after you show up. Too many dreams die in the waiting room of life. People with talent, people with heart, people with ideas that could change the world, but they never take that first step because they're waiting on perfect. Perfect is the enemy of progress. Perfectionism is just procrastination in disguise. It looks noble, but it's rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. But guess what? You'll never be enough for everyone. And failure, that's part of the process. You can't succeed without failing first, so stop letting fear dress itself up as wisdom. It's not wise to wait. It's wise to work. Action turns dreams into goals and goals into reality. One step, one phone call, one decision. That's how momentum starts. And once you build it, you protect it, you nurture it. Because momentum will take you places motivation never could. There will be days when you're not inspired, not excited, not energized. But if you built momentum, you'll keep moving. That's the power of action. So no, there's no perfect moment, but there's this moment. And that's all you need. Use it. Take the step, send the message, start the project. Make the move. Because done is better than perfect. Forward is better than flawless. And progress beats potential every single time. The right time is a myth. Your time is now. That phrase might sound simple, but it holds more power than most people realize. For years, people have lived their lives under the illusion that there's a perfect moment coming down the road. They say, I'll start when I graduate. I'll start when I get that job. I'll start once I save up enough money. I'll start when the kids grow up. I'll start when I feel more confident. I'll start when things calm down. But life doesn't work like that. It's never gonna slow down enough. It's never gonna line up just the way you want. The idea that someday in the future, everything will magically be in place, some place for you to finally begin, it's a lie. The truth is, the only moment you truly have control over is now. This moment, right here, right now, is where your power lives. You can't control the past. It's done. You can't predict the future. It's not promised. But you can make a decision today. You can take action today. You can change your mindset today. Everything else is a distraction. When people say they're waiting for the right time, what they're really saying is they're afraid. They're afraid of failing, afraid of stepping into the unknown. But instead of facing that fear, they mask it as strategy. They convince themselves that later is more responsible, more logical, more mature. But deep down, they know it's just hesitation. Let me tell you something real. Success doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who act. Opportunity doesn't knock on doors that haven't been built. You have to move. You have to show up not just in body, but in spirit. You have to declare that you're ready, not because the world told you so, but because you decided. You decide when it's your time, not the calendar, not the economy, not your boss, not your circumstances. You. Think about every person who ever made a major impact in history. Most of them didn't start with the perfect timing. In fact, many of them started in chaos. They started in war, in poverty, in sickness, in heartbreak. But they made the decision to begin anyway. They understood that life doesn't hand you the moment. You have to seize it. You have to create the moment. The right time isn't something you wait for. It's something you become. And if you're sitting there saying, but I'm not ready, let me ask you, what does a ready really mean? Does it mean having all the knowledge, all the confidence, all the money? Because if that's your definition, you'll never be ready. Growth doesn't happen before you begin. It happens as you go. You get ready by showing up. You build confidence by doing. You build wisdom by failing. You don't need to be fully prepared. You need to be fully committed. It's like standing at the edge of a cold pool. You dip your toes in, hesitate, pull back, wait for the water to warm up. But it never does. It's not until you dive in, all in, that your body adjusts. That's what action feels like. It might be uncomfortable at first, but once you're in, you realize you should have jumped sooner. Let me take it a step further. Every time you delay action, you're reinforcing your own doubt. You're training your brain to second guess your instincts. You're giving power to fear. And every time you tell yourself, now isn't the right time, you make it harder to believe in yourself the next time. You weaken your momentum. But when you act, even in small ways, you build that muscle. You create proof for your brain that you can do hard things, even when you're not fully ready. You know why most people never achieve their dreams? Because they never start, not because they weren't capable, not because they lacked talent or intelligence, but because they were always waiting for life to give them permission, waiting for things to feel easy, waiting for someone else to believe in them. But here's the thing. You don't need permission to start chasing your purpose. You don't need the world to approve of your dream before you start building it. You just need to decide that now is the time. This moment, not next week, not next year, is your opportunity. And the longer you hesitate, the more opportunities pass you by. Someone else with half your talent and half your potential is out there winning right now. Not because they're better than you, but because they moved. They took the leap. They stopped waiting. And you can too. You don't need more time. You need to believe that now is enough. Your time isn't coming. Your time is here. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. And the only thing standing between you and that life you've been dreaming about is action. So stop looking at the clock. Stop checking your condition. Stop waiting for the perfect move or the perfect move forward or the perfect moment. Because the only thing perfect about this moment is that it's yours. Progress is built through decision, not delay. That statement is the raw truth most people don't want to face. We live in a world where people talk about goals, talk about dreams, talk about success, but they never truly commit. They get stuck in this loop of overthinking, overanalyzing, second guessing. They tell themselves they're being cautious, that they're weighing all the options. But what they're really doing is delaying. They're postponing growth, putting off progress, and making excuses for why they haven't moved. The reality is that the people who actually get somewhere in life aren't the ones who delay until everything's perfect. They're the ones who decide, and then they commit. See, decision is powerful. When you make a true decision, you cut off every other possibility. You're saying, this is what I'm doing no matter what. That's when things start to shift. That's when your energy, your focus, and your actions align. But as long as you stay undecided, as long as you keep delaying, nothing moves. Nothing changes. You stay stuck in the same place, having the same conversations, watching other people pass you by. Not because they're smarter or luckier, but because they made a decision and followed through. The reason decision is so important is because it turns potential into progress. You could have all the talent in the world, all the resources, all the information, but if you don't decide to use it, it means nothing. There are people out there with half your ability doing twice as much, simply because they made a decision and stuck with it. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't wait to be perfect. They chose a direction and moved. That's where growth lives. That's where results come from. But delay is dangerous. Delay creates doubt. Every time you hesitate, you lose momentum. Every time you put something off, it gets heavier. It starts to feel impossible, not because it is, but because you've allowed fear and procrastination to cloud your judgment. And the worst part is that the longer you delay, the more you start to convince yourself that maybe it wasn't meant to be. That maybe the goal was too big. That maybe you're not cut out for it. But none of that is true. It's not that the dream was wrong. It's that you didn't decide. People underestimate the cost of inaction. Every day you delay is a day of lost progress. Every day you stay stuck in indecision is a day someone else is gaining ground. And the longer you sit on the fence, the harder it becomes to take the leap. Your confidence erodes, your passion fades. You start to forget why you even wanted it in the first place. That's why decision is a form of power. It's a declaration. It says, I'm no longer waiting. I'm no longer playing small. Moving forward. Now let me be clear. Decision doesn't mean you won't face obstacles. It doesn't mean the path will be easy, but it means you're in the game. And once you're in the game, you can start to adapt, learn, and grow. But you can't grow from the sidelines. You can't win a race you never started. Decision puts you on the path. Delay keeps you dreaming about it from a distance. And here's the thing, progress isn't always flashy. Sometimes progress looks like showing up when you don't feel like it. Sometimes it's making that uncomfortable phone call or putting in the work when no one's watching. But all of that starts with a decision. Every action, every breakthrough, every victory, it begins with a choice. Not a perfect one, not a popular one, just a real one. A choice to stop waiting and start doing. What you have to understand is that life will never hand you guarantees. There will always be risk. There will always be fear. But progress doesn't come to the fearless. It comes to the decided. You don't need to know every step. You just need to commit to taking the first one. And once you do, you start building momentum. You start stacking wins. One step leads to another. One decision leads to growth. One act of courage leads to clarity. So if you're sitting there wondering when the time will be right, here's the answer. The time is right when you decide it is. The power isn't in the moment. The power is in your mindset. You don't need another sign. You don't need another opinion. You need to make a decision and own it. Stand on, move with it. Because at the end of the day, the difference between people who talk about success and people who actually achieve it is simple. The successful ones stop delaying. They stopped overthinking. They stopped playing it safe. They made a decision and they got to work. So if you want progress, if you want change, if you want to become the person you were meant to be, stop waiting. Stop delaying. Decide and let that decision be the start of something powerful. You will never feel fully ready. That's just the truth. And the sooner you accept that, the faster you'll start moving in life. So many people wait for that perfect moment where they'll feel completely confident, totally prepared, and entirely fearless. But that moment never comes. Because readiness isn't a feeling, it's a mindset. And most of the time, it's a mindset that develops after you take action, not before. We live in a world that worships comfort. We're trained to believe that we shouldn't move forward until we feel good, until we feel in control, until we feel certain. But progress doesn't work that way. Growth happens when we step out of comfort, not deeper into it. Waiting to feel ready is like waiting for fear to disappear. It won't. Fear is part of the process. Doubt is part of the journey. Uncertainty is part of becoming something greater than you are right now. Think about any major accomplishment in your life or in anyone's life. Did they really feel 100% ready? Probably not. People start businesses scared. They walk into job interviews nervous. They take on leadership roles feeling like imposters. They move to new cities with shaky legs. The people who win are not the ones who feel ready. They're the ones who act anyway. They understand that the feeling of readiness is often a lie mind tells us to protect us from discomfort. You can prepare, you can train, you can study, and yes, all that helps, but it won't eliminate the fear. It won't erase the self-doubt. Because no matter how much you prepare, the first time you do something new, you're going to feel uncertain. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to question yourself. That's normal. That's not a sign to stop. That's a sign to go. Because those feelings, that tension, that's where transformation lives. Too many people think that if they're scared, it means they're not ready. But fear isn't a red light. It's a green light that's just really bright. It's telling you this matters. It's telling you you're on the edge of something meaningful. But if you keep waiting for that magical moment where the fear disappears and your confidence suddenly shows up, you'll be stuck in the same place next year and the year after that. Because feelings follow action. Confidence grows from movement. Courage comes from stepping in, not standing back. You don't need to feel ready to take the first step. You just need to trust that you'll figure it out. That's what most successful people have learned. Not how to eliminate fear, but how to move with it. How to operate in uncertainty. How to keep showing up, even when the voice in their head says, you're not good enough. Because they know that voice is just fear talking. And fear only has power if you listen to it. Imagine what you could do if you stop waiting to feel ready. Imagine the opportunities you grab, the moves you make, the risks you take, the conversations you start, the talents you develop. All that potential is trapped behind the feeling. And that feeling is lying to you. It's telling you you're not ready when you are. You're never going to feel ready to change your life. You just have to decide to do it anyway. The truth is nobody ever really feels ready to take a leap. That's why it's called a leap. You jump without knowing exactly where you'll land. But it's in the air. During the fall, that you learn who you really are. That's where you discover strength you didn't know you had. That's where resilience is born. You can't gain that from books. You can't get that from thinking. You have to live it. You have to be in it. And yes, it's going to be messy. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. But that's how you grow. That's how you sharpen your skills. That's how you learn. So instead of chasing readiness, chase progress, chase experience, chase discomfort. Because every time you act without feeling ready, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your fear. And the more you do that, the more unstoppable you become. Let go of this idea that you need to have it all figured out. Nobody does. People out there doing amazing things are still figuring it out as they go. The difference is they're in motion. They didn't wait for confidence. They built it step by step. And you can too. So whatever it is you've been putting off, that dream, that goal, that decision, stop waiting to feel ready. That feeling isn't coming, but you are. You're rising. you're learning, you're growing, and the more you trust yourself to act without certainty, the more power you take back from fear. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. It might not be perfect. It might not even be pretty, but it will be progress. And progress beats perfection every time, because progress means you moved, you acted. You believed, not in some perfect future version of yourself, but in who you are right now. And that belief, that's where real transformation begins. Doubt is loud, but your purpose is louder. That inner voice that questions everything, your timing, your skills, your work, that voice can feel like a roar some days. It tells you you're not ready, not good enough, not meant for greatness. That voice can make you freeze. It can keep you from trying, from risking, from becoming. But here's what you need to understand. Doubt only gets loud when you're close to something powerful. It shows up when you're standing on the edge of something meaningful. The presence of doubt isn't proof you should stop. It's proof you're on the right path. Every person with a dream will battle with doubt. It's part of the process. You think the people you look up to never felt fear? You think they always felt confident? No, they just chose not to let that voice control it. They chose to lean into their purpose. Purpose is steady. Purpose is solid. It doesn't shake every time fear shows up. It doesn't crumble when someone questions you. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, that why becomes your anchor. You need to be louder than your doubt. Your mission, your goals, your calling, they need to drown out the noise of fear. Because doubt speaks from the past. It reminds you of failure. It replays old mistakes. It brings up rejection, embarrassment, and pain. But purpose speaks from the future. It shows you what's possible. It points to growth, to impact, to legacy. When doubt says, what if you fail? Purpose says, what if you fly? Purpose gives you vision. It gives you clarity. It gives you fire when everything else around you says give up. And that's what you need when the journey gets tough. Because it will. There will be days when nothing goes right, when people criticize you, when the results don't match the effort. On those days, if you're only listening to the doubt, you'll quit. But if you're connected to purpose, you'll keep going. You'll remind yourself of the bigger picture. You'll remember why you started. The truth is, doubt is just fear in disguise. It shows up like a protective friend telling you to slow down, back off, play it safe. But playing it safe won't build your legacy. Playing it safe won't fulfill your potential. You can't let fear and a mask make your decisions for you. That voice in your head isn't the voice of truth. It's the voice of resistance. And resistance only shows up when you're trying to grow. It doesn't come after people standing still. It comes after people in motion. And if you're hearing that voice, good. That means you're stepping up. That means you're stretching. That means you're doing something that matters. Now you just need to make sure your purpose is louder. Speak your goals out loud. Remind yourself why they matter. Read them. Write them. Repeat them. Surround yourself with people who speak life into you, not fear. And when the doubt comes, and it will, you don't shrink. You don't stop. You speak back. You let your purpose roll. Because there are people waiting on you. People who need your message, your product, your leadership, your courage. And if you let doubt win, you're not just cheating yourself, you're cheating them. You were born with something this world needs. But the world can't see it if you hide it. It can't feel it if you silence yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to keep going, keep building, keep believing. Every time you push through doubt, you get stronger. Every time you move anyway, even with fear in your chest, you take back power, and it adds up. One step, one decision, one act of courage at a time. That's how you break free. That's how you win. So the next time doubt tries to take the mic, don't hand it the stage. Let your purpose speak. Let your why remind you that you weren't made to play small. You were made to rise, to build, to impact, to lead. And that starts with belief. Belief in the voice inside you that says, oh, there's more. Belief in the future you see, even if no one else sees it yet. Belief in your purpose louder than the doubt. Because when the doubt fades, and it will, what's going to be left is the life you built in spite of it. The impact you made because you didn't give in. The legacy you left because you kept showing up. And all of it started when you decided that your purpose was more powerful than your fear. That your vision mattered more than your feelings. That your future was louder than your past. Let that purpose guide you. Let it push you. Let it be your response to every whisper of doubt. You don't have to silence the fear. Just outshout it. Let your purpose do the talking. Perfection is a myth, but effort is real. We grow up believing that there's this flawless version of life, of success, of ourselves, just waiting to be unlocked if we time everything right, if we move without mistakes, if we wait until we're ready. But that version doesn't exist. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards persistence. It rewards action. It rewards people who are willing to show up, even when it's messy, even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain. Because the truth is, perfect doesn't move people, real does. When you chase perfection, you set yourself up for paralysis. You start believing you can't begin until every detail is locked in. You overanalyze, you delay, you wait. And what happens? Nothing. No growth, no progress, just stagnation disguised as preparation. You tell yourself you're just being careful, but really you're hiding behind the fear of not getting it right or being judged or failing. But failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every successful person you admire failed first. They tried, they stumbled, they adjusted. They kept going. That's effort. And that's what builds greatness. Effort isn't glamorous, it's not shiny. It doesn't always look good on social media. It's early mornings, late nights, frustration, confusion, and doing the work even when you don't feel like it. Effort is consistency without applause. It's writing the draft no one reads. It's lifting the weight no one sees. It's studying for hours with no guarantee of success. And yet, it's in those moments where you're becoming who you need to be. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up over and over again. And the beautiful thing about effort is that compounds. One small action leads to another. One decision builds on the last. And over time, all those imperfect steps lead to massive transformation. You don't need to leap to the top. You just need to climb. You just need to move. And if you keep moving, if you keep trying, if you keep pouring into effort, eventually momentum kicks in. Progress shows up. And suddenly you're further than you ever thought you'd be, not because you were perfect, but because you were persistent. We get caught up in comparing our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We see their success and think they must have gotten it right on the first try. But you didn't see the hours they spent grinding, the sacrifices they made, the tears they shed, the times they almost gave up. That's what effort looks like. It's invisible until it's undeniable. It's boring until it's brilliant. And the only way to tap into it is to stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. You're going to mess up. You're going to fall short. That's okay. That's human. What matters is that you don't let those moments define you. You let them teach you. You let them shape you. You get back up and try again. This time a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more aware. That's what separates people who dream from people who do. The ones who do understand that perfection is a trap. But effort is the way forward. You don't need to have the best plan. You don't need the best timing. You just need the discipline to keep showing up, the courage to keep putting yourself out there, the grit to keep fighting for what you believe in, even when nothing seems to be working. Because that's what creates real success. Not a flawless path, but a relentless spirit. Effort gives you freedom. When you stop obsessing over doing things perfectly, you start actually doing them. You learn faster. You grow quicker. You build resilience. You take risks. You become bolder, more creative, more alive. Because now you're not living in fear of getting it wrong. You live in pursuit of getting it done. And listen, people don't connect with perfect. They connect with effort. They relate to the struggle. They admire the grind. They see themselves in your imperfections. And when you let go of the illusion of perfection, you give other people permission to do the same. You become a living example that it's okay to be a work in progress. That what matters isn't how flawless you are, but how fearless you are about showing up again and again. So stop waiting for perfect. It's not coming. And even if it did, it wouldn't teach you anything. Choose effort instead. Choose the path where you learn, where you grow, where you stumble and rise over and over again. Because every time you put in the work, every time you try when it's easier to quit, every time you push when you feel like breaking it, you are becoming. You're becoming the version of yourself that can handle the dream you're chasing. And that version of you, they weren't born from perfection. They were built by effort. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one imperfect, courageous step at a time. The moment you decide is the moment everything changes. It's not the moment circumstances align. It's not when the stars are in the right position. It's not when you finally feel ready. It's when you decide. When you say, no more waiting, no more doubting, no more doubting, no more second guessing. That decision is where the shift happens. Not outside of you, not in your environment, but inside your mind. That's the power of decision. It changes everything without anything else needing to change first. See, most people wait for a sign. They wait for validation. They wait for conditions to be perfect. But life doesn't work like that. The people who make it, who rise, who break barriers, they aren't the ones who waited. They're the ones who decided to act, decided to believe, decided to move forward, even when the path wasn't clear. They took control of their direction, not because it was easy, but because they were done letting fear and circumstances dictate their future. A decision is a line in the sand. Before the decision, you're back and forth. You're analyzing, you're overthinking, you're hesitating. But after the decision, you're in motion. You've locked in. You've made up your mind. And that mental clarity gives you something powerful, momentum. And momentum, that's when things start happening. That's when the opportunities show up. That's when people start taking you seriously. Because nothing moves until you do. Think about it. Everything you've ever done started with a decision, even the small thing. Deciding to get up early, deciding to go to the gym, deciding to study, to show up, to speak up. And what happened after that decision? Progress, action, growth. It didn't require perfection. It didn't require guarantees. It just required you to commit. And that commitment carried weight. It pulls you forward. That's the same energy you need when you're chasing something big. Don't underestimate what one decision can do. It can change your habits. It can shift your identity. It can start a chain reaction that transforms your entire life. One decision to believe in yourself. One decision to stop quitting. One decision to go all in. That's where the breakthrough begins. But you have to stop negotiating with yourself. You have to stop dipping your toe in and decide to dive. Because half decisions don't produce full results. You can't be halfway committed and expect to reach the next level. And yes, it's going to be scary. Yeah, doubt will show up. Yes, people might not understand. But your decision isn't about them. It's about you, about your vision, your future, your freedom. You have to be willing to bet on yourself before anyone else will. You have to be the first believer, the first one in the room who says, I don't care how it looks right now. I made my decision. I'm going to do this. That kind of certainty doesn't come from outside validation. It comes from internal conviction. It comes from trusting that your purpose is bigger than your fear, that your desire to grow is stronger than your need to stay comfortable. And when you make that decision, really make it, it becomes your compass. It guides you when things get tough. It grounds you when things get chaotic. Because when you truly decided, quitting is no longer an option. People ask, what if I fail? But what if you succeed? What if this one decision opens a door you never saw coming? What if it introduces you to people, to ideas, to opportunities that change everything? You'll never know if you don't commit. And the regret of not trying, of staying stuck, of playing small, that weighs more than any failure ever could. You don't need a perfect plan to decide. You don't need every detail mapped out. You just need to be clear on your why. Because once your why is strong enough, the how will start to show up. You'll figure it out. You'll adapt. You'll learn. But it starts with you making the call. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. This is who I'm becoming. And once you make that call, really make it, the rest becomes about execution, not hesitation. You'll still have challenges. You'll still have days where doubt whispers in your ear. But you'll have something stronger, a decision that you already made, a decision that says, I'm doing this anyway. That mindset separates leaders from followers, action takers from excuse makers. That's how you take your life from average to exceptional. So stop waiting for the right time. It's not coming. The right time is the moment you choose. The second you decide, I'm ready to build. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to grow. Everything shifts from that point on. Not because the world changed. You made the decision. And that's the most powerful move you ever make.